What's up guys, Mickle here, and in this video, I want to share with you a brand new finding in relation to the Ripple SEC case that is absolutely massively bullish for XRP going forward. Now, obviously, if you're watching this video right now, you know that Ripple beat the SEC in court earlier this month, and XRP was declared not a security by Judge Torres. Well, despite that being fantastic news, the one thing being held over our head right now is a chance that the SEC appeals this decision and later down the road tries to make XRP a security via a higher level court. Well, in this video, I want to share with you a brand new finding by Jeremy Hogan that is going to make it clear that the SEC will never be able to appeal XRP not being a security. This is absolutely massive. It gets rid of any threat of an SEC appeal and is huge for the XRP community going forward. I also want to talk about a brand new bill that was just released by the House Committee on Agriculture in relation to bringing regulations to the cryptocurrency market. Now, this thing has a lot of bipartisan support, and there's actually a chance this gets passed in the relative near future. In this video, I want to break down exactly what's in this thing. Is it good for the CFTC, the SEC? We're going to break that down, so make sure to stick around for this whole thing. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. If you enjoy these videos, make sure to take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's really going to help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a good place to buy some XRP or the Flare token, make sure to check out my favorite exchange I'll pull down in the description of this video. With that said though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start out this video and talk about the brand new bill that was just introduced, because this thing has bipartisan support, so it actually has a good chance of passing. And it's not just regulating stablecoins, it's looking to establish regulations for all digital assets. Now, this is fascinating because this is exactly what the United States desperately needs right now. The SEC is running around pretending like cryptocurrencies can be securities. We desperately need rules that specifically put these regulators in their place. Now, in an ideal world, the SEC wouldn't be running around abusing their power and forcing Congress into a situation where they need to create rules that limit these regulators. But the fact of the matter is, that's where we are right now, and that's why they are being forced to act so quickly. Now, when you think about it like that, it actually might be a good thing that the SEC has been acting like such a rogue agency. They've kind of forced Congress into action, and the good news is companies like Ripple, companies like Coinbase and Grayscale are actually putting up a very good fight against the SEC and look like they're actually going to win. So the SEC has been unable to actually inflict a lot of damage to this industry, and in the process, they've kind of just forced Congress to actually step up and start passing rules to limit the SEC's power. So I want to start off and just go over some of the more important things in this bill. There's a whole bunch of text. This thing was 217 pages, but there's two things I really want to address here because it's really the most important parts. So to start, and this is really the biggest hit to the SEC, treatment of certain digital assets sold pursuant to an investment contract. A digital asset sold or transferred or intended to be sold or transferred pursuant to an investment contract is not and does not become a security as a result of being sold or otherwise transferred in pursuant to that investment contract. So I know that probably sounded like gibberish. Honestly, it sounded like gibberish reading it, but at the end of the day, all this is saying is crypto tokens themselves are not securities. This is exactly what we just saw in the Ripple SEC case. Judge Annalisa Torres made it extremely clear to the court, and like I'm going to show you later in this video when Jeremy Hogan breaks this down, this is something she didn't even have to say, but she went out of her way to make it extremely clear in her ruling that crypto assets cannot be securities. We see that statement by Judge Torres being reinforced right here, saying regardless of how an asset is sold, the asset itself can never be the security. Now, you can sell an asset in a securities transaction in which the transaction is the security, but not the asset, and that's what this statement makes clear right here. This is one of the most important things we need because it gets rid of this black swan scenario of the SEC being able to call the crypto tokens themselves securities. This is really the only absolutely dangerous thing for this market. Any other thing can be worked around. Any other thing we can figure out a registration process or figure out ways to get around the SEC's rules. But this right here was the SEC's way of essentially destroying a project simply by calling it a security. What we're seeing in this bill is that will be absolutely out the door. This will get rid of the SEC being able to call any token a security, and instead every single token out there will not be a security, and the SEC, who has been claiming they have jurisdiction over this industry, is going to be pushed aside by the CFTC, who will now be the primary regulator for the spot market. This is fantastic news because at the end of the day, it didn't really matter if it was the SEC or the CFTC in charge, but the SEC decided a while ago they were just going to attack this industry, try to hurt it, try to put these businesses out of business. Meanwhile, the CFTC has really been trying to work proactively with the industry, so it just makes a lot more sense that, hey, we're not going to give this industry to a regulator who's trying to kill it. Let's give this industry to a regulator who's actually trying to help it grow. This was one of the biggest mistakes I think the SEC made. They were way too aggressive with this industry. They missed all the frauds and instead they went after the Ripples and Coinbases. It made absolutely no sense, and I think it just hurt their credibility. So when Congress got together and when they were writing rules for, hey, who's this industry going to go to, obviously the SEC just looked irresponsible and it looked like a bad idea to hand this industry over to them. Massive mistake by the SEC right there, in my opinion, but I think the CFTC is really going to get a lot bigger and a lot more powerful because of this. I really hope we can keep the right people at the CFTC and it doesn't end up as just a SEC 2.0, but so far, based on everything I have seen, at least in the short term, the CFTC will be absolutely able to handle the cryptocurrency industry in a way that's not going to damage it. And the other thing I wanted to quickly point out, because I think it's important, is this one section that talks about how a person can only invest 10% of their annual income in digital assets. Now, the reason I wanted to point this out is because I know it's going to generate a ton of FUD out there, but just understand that's not actually what this is saying. This is just what crypto Twitter thinks it says. What this is really saying is a person who wants to invest in an initial token offering, which is a securities transaction according to this bill. So the initial transaction, the sale, would be a security. Like we talked about, that doesn't mean the token's a security. It just means the process of selling that token in the initial offering. That offering right there, that transaction, is the security that needs to be registered. What this is saying is if you're a retail investor or a not accredited investor, you can only put 10% of your annual income in that initial token offering. So what this really does is allows retail investors to actually participate in these token offerings rather than just slamming the door on them and only allowing accredited investors in. So is this preventing retail investors from participating in the cryptocurrency market? No, not at all. That's what a lot of people think this says. You can invest however much of your salary, your net worth you want in the cryptocurrency industry. This is only pertaining to those initial token offerings, in which case you can only put 10% of your salary in that token offering. Now, whether or not you agree with that limitation being in place, honestly, I really don't think you should be putting more than 10% of your salary in a given ICO. They're high risk. It's a super speculative time for a token. And while I don't think this really needs to be in the bill, it's certainly not something that's bad and certainly not what crypto Twitter thinks it is. Crypto Twitter thinks this is the US government saying you could only put 10% of your salary in cryptocurrency every single year. That's not what it is. It's only talking about ICOs. So now I want to move on and talk about what I think might be one of the most bullish things I have seen since the wrap up of this Ripple SEC case. Now, obviously, I was extremely optimistic on Ripple's win. I thought they were going to win the entire time, and I was confident XRP would not be called a security. But the one thing that did have me a little worried over the past couple of days was just the SEC's chances of actually appealing this thing. If you've been watching my videos, I have been fairly confident that they wouldn't, but there were a lot of smart people saying, okay, it's guaranteed the SEC will appeal, and based on what I'd seen from the SEC in the past, it wouldn't surprise me if they just appealed the ruling to try to hurt XRP going forward. But I saw this clip of Jeremy Hogan earlier today. It was absolutely fantastic and made me so confident the SEC would not be able to appeal this ruling. This is one of the most bullish things I have seen since the close of this case. So listen up closely to this, then we'll break it down. This is absolutely massive, and I am so happy that Jeremy Hogan found this out. Listen up closely to this.
And she ruled on this XRP is not a security in a very interesting way. She quoted other cases which say kind of the same thing. And so it's called what's called dicta because it's not an essential part of her order, but it is in there. I don't think you can appeal that. I don't think that's appealable. I really don't. I don't think that any appellate court can touch that part of the order which says XRP in and of itself is not a security, which is really what's important for the XRP holders.
So what Jeremy Hogan said there was absolutely critical, and I want to make it clear to you exactly what he's saying. So we know in the SEC case, they tried to imply that XRP was the security. But when it came to summary judgment, they never specifically asked Judge Torres to address the issue, is XRP a security? But what we know is Judge Torres did address this issue. She said XRP is not a security based on these facts and then cited cases. So what Jeremy Hogan is saying is because the SEC never actually asked Judge Torres to address this issue, but she did it anyway, well, the SEC can't actually appeal that. Judge Torres was just citing the law. She was saying the law is the asset itself is not the security, and therefore, since the SEC was never making a claim on that issue in their summary judgment ask, that can't actually be appealed. Instead, the SEC can only appeal Ripple's specific sales, which comes down to either their transactions to exchanges and then their transactions to institutional buyers. Well, the SEC won on half of that. They won on the institutional buyers and not the other transactions involved in exchanges. So the SEC can only appeal these transactions, not whether or not XRP is the security, and that is a massive loss for the SEC. The only reason we went through this entire case is because the SEC wanted to make XRP the security. They could care less about specific transactions. They wanted full control over the asset, and what we're hearing from Jeremy Hogan right here is that vision for the SEC to take control of the industry is absolutely over. Judge Torres gave an unappealable decision that XRP is not a security, and that is one of the most bullish things I have heard in a very long time. There is a ton of professionals all over Twitter saying the SEC is going to appeal this and get XRP to be a security in the future. What I'm hearing from Jeremy Hogan right here is that that is absolutely impossible, and XRP now has certain clarity for eternity. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does mean so much. And for now, Mickle out.